Today we have an unusual Benge 5CFL mouthpiece, which is a flugel mouthpiece, that was modified by me a long time ago. I don't know, 10 or more years ago. And what I used to do was take original mouthpieces for people and make them more efficient. So there are several pieces inside here that comprise the mouthpiece that was once one part. So I did strip it down. I created a higher efficiency body for this mouthpiece, and then I put it in a drawer and forgot about it. I don't know why, but I found it. You can see I've never even buffed the engraving. It's still kind of rough, and it was all stripped down. So this is a Benge 5CFL. I'm not sure why they put the C on there, because that's supposed to be the cup depth, and this is a flugelhorn depth, and it definitely is a little deeper than a C, so that doesn't really make sense to me. But here we have it. Use your imagination and imagine that it was a Benge body. So now I'm going to start with a gauge pin, and I already found the one that fits nice and tight, and this is a can I read it? 144. So we have a 144 gauge pin. That's pretty small, but in terms of a 5C, that's pretty normal. So 144 is quite similar to a standard Bach 5C. Now I'm going to take the calipers, measure the back bore, get it as close to the edge as I can. 353. This is definitely larger than a normal 5C, and it's larger than most flugelhorn mouthpieces as well. As you can see, there's not much material back here, so it's more like a Monet Prana, and that is very unusual. Typically flugelhorns have a smaller section in the back, so typically this would be a smaller shank and a smaller back bore, so you'd have more metal on the back. However, I think this was some kind of a trumpet mouthpiece that's supposed to imitate the flugel sound, so then that would explain why that back bore is so big. That was their attempt at creating a warmer, fluffier sound. And bigger back bores like a 350 would give you more diffusion. So in other words, you would have more of the sound spread out to your audience rather than being focused. So this kind of makes sense once you put it into that context. Now, let's measure the cup and see if it's close to a 5. Okay, 630. Okay, so that could pass as a 5, and I'm going to measure it for the 5mm for those of you who are playing on that. It is, let's get it, pretty small, 575. So if you're on a 5mm, this could be as small as a 575 on your cup. The depth is quite a bit deeper than normal. And what else do we have to say about it? It's quite heavy. I'm sure it's quite efficient. I had a video posted earlier, and Andy Taylor commented that he and his clients could not understand thousandths of an inch because they're on the metric system. Well, the system that we use here in the United States, we use both systems. So we use metric and we use the standard or US English system, and that's thousandths of an inch. We use inches instead of millimeters. It's really a very simple conversion. So if for some reason you're having problems understanding what a 144 gauge pin means and you want to put it in a metric, all you need is this amazing device, a calculator. So Andy and friends, I will show you how to convert 0.144 times 25.4 equals 3.6576 millimeters. So if you're having problems with that, grab a calculator, punch it in, but I encourage you to just learn thousandths of an inch, because I'm pretty sure thousandths of an inch is going to be the new standard. That's what we use in the 5mm, and it makes it incredibly easy to understand once you just put it into numbers that are divided by 1,000. So let's play this mouthpiece and see what it does. I'm going to play it again on the HT6. Fits into the receiver nicely. Even though this is a modification from years ago, it almost reaches the receiver on the HT6. The sound is a little more focused than I would expect. It doesn't sound flugely, even though it's supposed to be an FL flugel type trumpet mouthpiece. At the same time, it does spread more, so it's not as focused. Overall, I would say it's a nice sounding mouthpiece that would work well in a symphonic band or even a jazz band. It does have a little bit extra, I wouldn't say warmth, but diffusion. You can feel and hear the diffusion. It's almost like you don't hit the notes with a solid core. That's why I rested on that F. You know how you can pull the bow across the string of a cello and it's got that kind of richness? I'm getting some of that with this mouthpiece. Especially in the lower register. So I would say if you find a Benge 5CFL, which is the only one I think I've ever seen, but if you do find one, or you're looking for something with that FL designation, then know it's probably going to have that kind of rich cello-esque kind of timbre. It also teaches us some things about mouthpieces in general. If you're looking at a mouthpiece that's a standard setup, but you're deepening the cup, you definitely are going to have a warmer attack, which I hear here. It's not real harsh, and that's because it is more of a V cup, and it's very deep. The backboard does kind of spread the projection. Now in the 5mm system, let me grab my mouthpiece. So in the 5mm, you could set the 5mm up to be exactly like this and switch back and forth between, say, the 5mm that is the flugelish time or type and back to something that can be symphonic, just by changing the cup and the backboard. So you could really replicate this. You could take this a lot further with the 5mm as well by really just changing the throat so it's big enough to create a big broad sound. So you'll see some 5mm comparison videos with some of the other mouthpieces we've reviewed in the past, and I'll show you how we can set the 5mm up to mimic really any mouthpiece. But overall, I would say this Benge does have a place in the trumpet world. If you're playing something that's like in church or smooth or with strings, then you're really going to blend well, or even just a solo. So it is a very nice sounding mouthpiece, and it was comfortable on the lips. So there you have it, the Benge 5CFL.